lot of times sellers are house rich, cash poor, right? They've got a lot of equity in their home. Just things are so expensive. California is a great example. Things are expensive every day. So not a lot of money left at the end of the month. And they've got some deferred maintenance that maybe they need to take care of, but they just don't have the available funds to do it.
On this episode of the Thoughtful Realtor in Sacramento, I'm joined by Chris Mattix of Notable Financing. Chris is a real estate professional with over 28 years of industry experience, including 11 years as a broker and 17 years in real estate sales. He currently serves as an account manager with Notable, part of the Windermere Ready program, designed to support sellers prepare their homes for going on the market. So if you have questions about getting your home ready to sell, this episode is for you. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, thanks, Meriam.
I'm so excited for you to be here because this is such an important and stressful topic for people that are planning to sell their house. They look around their house and they think, gosh, this is broken, that's broken. I have so much to do, and they just get really overwhelmed with the whole process. So tell us a little bit about what the Windermere Ready program is.
Yeah, the Windermere Ready program through Notable is an unsecured product that is a loan for the seller. A lot of times sellers are house rich, cash poor, right? They've got a lot of equity in their home. Just things are so expensive. California is a great example. Things are expensive every day. So not a lot of money left at the end of the month. And they've got some deferred maintenance that maybe they need to take care of, but they just don't have the available funds to do it. So it is a program that allows them to borrow money from their equity, defer the cost of those repairs using the equity home, and then nothing's due until closing.
And then tell
So
us.
it's a really great product.
Yeah. And so the thing I love about this product or this program, I would say, is that it gives sellers an opportunity to get their home market ready without putting out any cash themselves. A lot of times they might not have it. And it's also not a hard hit on their credit report. Is that right?
Correct. Being that it is an unsecured loan, we do not report it to the credit bureau until the loan actually is paid off, which is a benefit to the seller. So it's a great thing because it does not affect their credit. That's a nice thing about being unsecured.
So, how does the program work? For example, let's say I had a seller, there's a lot of things they need to do. They need to do landscaping, or I'm recommending that they stage their home. There's repairs that have to be done. How would I guide them through this process, and what are the steps?
There's a link that you would send the client. That same link is the one that they'll use to apply for the loan and also to manage the funds. So they just go in, answer about 10 questions regarding just their personal information, loans on the home, what they're going to list it at. It does require a social security number. And then usually within minutes, they're going to have a response back of what they've been approved for, up to 50,000. Once they've done that, they have access to the funds. They have 6 months to use the funds. The loan term is 12 months or close of escrow, whichever happens sooner. But as they get an invoice from a contractor, let's say a contractor comes out, they're going to do some work, some painting or whatever it might be. They're going to give them an estimate or quote, something of that nature, an invoice. They submit that through the portal. We connect to their checking account, and then they can have funds usually in their account between 1 to 3 business days.
And the other thing I like is that you're not paying interest on money that you're not borrowing. So you can get up to 50,000. You don't have to access that much. And what is the interest rate, generally speaking?
So we see an average of about 1% per month. Interest rate is based off the FICO score. But you're right, there is zero cost. There's no origination fee, which is, by the way, the origination fee is up to $499. And there's no interest if the funds are never used. So what a lot of agents that I work with will do is they'll actually have their seller get pre-approved for the loan, regardless of the condition of the home, whether or not it needs any work, just because as a listing agent, you want to eliminate the most amount of stress for that seller. And things can come up during the listing period, especially with buyers having options. Surprise inspection item that nobody caught,
Right.
right? They might have remodeled the house, but didn't go in the crawl space, find a leak. All of a sudden there's mold, and that's a big shock or surprise to a seller. And they may not have the immediate funds if they're closing in maybe a month. They can't get access to the funds. So being pre-approved allow that they don't ever have to use it. They can use their funds all day long, but it's there in case of an emergency, and they can have funds again roughly in 24 hours to take care of it and not have to worry about delaying the closing.
And I love that because it does cover those unanticipated situations like a roof, or sometimes you open up the house and there are things there that you didn't expect to see and you've got to take care
Right.
of. What are some ways that sellers are using the funds? What are you seeing that them use it for?
Yeah. In essence, I always say the shortest list is a list that can't, the things that it can't be used for. It can't be used to pay off debt, period. Anything related to the home, getting it ready, pre-inspection items. If your seller does a pre-inspection, they can use that to take care of it. Things like moving expenses, staging, painting, landscaping, anything, even temporary housing. So maybe you've got a seller, they've got a new baby in the house and they're worried about it. They got young kids, or you've got someone who's been in the home 50, 60 years or so, and they're ready to move off and go on to assisted living. They can use it for up to 4 months of temporary housing. So if your seller
Mm.
wants to get out of the house while the work's being done, they can go stay at an Airbnb for a couple of
So
weeks. So
temporary
really,
housing, so not just home repairs. We're talking about moving somewhere
correct.
while you're doing something else. That's incredible.
Pods, if if they were putting their stuff into a pod and they're moving it, moving a car to another state. Attorney fees, if it's related to the sale, if they're putting a home into an estate, they have to hire an attorney, that can be covered. Yeah, it's just and also the thing to remember is they can also use the funds to reimburse themselves for anything they've spent on the home up to 120 days before they accept that loan. So if they've already spent some money on the home, maybe they used a credit card and now that credit card's maxed and they still need more money, they can get the loan, pay off that credit card because as long as they have paid invoices, and then turn around and still have access to those funds. And also there is a Windermere Ready branded debit card that they will get, and they can use that at Home Depot if they need to as well.
So, Chris, how does the payoff process work? Just talk us through. I'm a seller, I'm going to the signing and escrow. Just how is it paid off, really?
Yeah, once you get past that 6 month period, that's the draw period, then there's no more access to the funds. And then once you have a closing date or an escrow information, either the agent or the seller through their portal can provide us with that information. And we will automatically send a payoff statement to escrow within 7 days of closing so that it's all taken care of and paid for at a closing. And then again, it just gets paid through the funds, the proceeds from the purchase or the sale.
And is there any upfront costs that sellers incur in applying for the program?
There is no application fee. The origination fee, $499, only goes into effect if funds are drawn or used.
Okay.
So again, that's why they can get pre-approved, not cost them a dime, no origination fee and no interest if they never use the funds.
So let's talk a little bit about sellers that want to list their home as is and why that is a bad idea. I like to tell my clients, a lot of times they'll say, we don't want to do anything. We just want to put it on the market, sell it as is. And what I tell them is, first of all, this isn't legal advice, but there is no as is in California. Sellers have an obligation to make certain disclosures and do certain things. And I think what clients mean when they say that is they don't want to have to repair or fix anything. So, what do you say to those sellers that are really eager to sell their home as is?
On the market, when active inventory is rising, homes are sitting longer. Buyers have options. And statistically, we know that homes that are turnkey, staged, outshine their competition are always going to sell faster and for more money. And when buyers have options, I always say you have about 30 seconds to capture their attention from when they walk in that listing or when they pull up the listing online. And when they have choices, they're going to be very particular. And the reason that you would not, in my opinion, you wouldn't want to do it, you wouldn't want to sell as is that a lot of times the homes that need work are going to sit longer.
Mhm.
So as they sit, what you'll see in terms of the time frame of homes on the market, maybe that need some work is all of a sudden it's sitting on the market, a couple months, 2, 3 months. Now you have some price reductions. Now you get a buyer. And the buyer comes in, does a home inspection, which is what they're doing because they have choices now. A lot of buyers are not, we're not waiving that anymore, but they're doing an inspection. And if something comes up, maybe an appliance or system that's past its life expectancy, what I'm seeing and what agents are telling me is that because the home's been on the market for a while and there's been several price reductions, the buyers feel like they now have more leverage in this transaction. And now I saw a situation where it was a water heater that was past its life expectancy, and the buyer actually asked for 8 grand in concessions,
Wow.
and they got it
Wow.
because the seller was obviously a little bit more motivated because they were on the market. Another thing of I think that's important and why a seller would want to get the work done ahead of time is that they control the cost. So if they have a furnace or AC that's past its life expectancy and they replace it, they can replace it with something that maybe isn't as expensive. But when they've been on the market for a while, now the buyer does an inspection and they call out that AC or furnace to be replaced, they're going to want top of the line replacement. So it helps the seller control that cost. And again, you don't want that buyer to walk in. Here's another thing that goes through a buyer's mind. They might walk in, see some stuff that's wrong with the house. Maybe they have an inspection, a couple items come up, and they're like, man, seller really doesn't take care of their house. What's going to happen in 2, 3 years? Is there more things that are going to come up? And again, because they have choices, they move on to the next one. So you want that home to go on the market in its best light.
Such a good point, Chris. I can't tell you what that I tell sellers every single time. Your home needs to be as pristine and market ready as possible, especially like you said, when inventory is changing and buyers have more choices. It's just so ready. And I always recommend staging for that same reason is people want to feel like they're getting something of value. And ultimately, like you said, it does end up costing the seller more if they just put it on the market the way it is without preparing it.
Yep. And when you do a CMA for a seller, you're going to show them comps, you're going to show them homes that sold. And those ones that have a smaller time on market are usually going to, as they'll see from photos, they outshine, very well staged and taken care of, and all the maintenance has been done. So it's just a proven fact statistically that those homes will sell faster.
And that's a really good point that there are statistics to back this up. It's not just us saying it. It's there's been studies that homes that are market ready sell faster and for more money. Is that correct?
Yep. And actually, NAR did a survey and that for buyers, and buyers want turnkey homes. They don't want to walk in and go, we're going to have to replace that carpet. The hardwoods look a little worn out. The windows are all these things. It just gives them already a bad taste in their mouth about this home. And you want them to walk in and go, this is it. This is the house. And they're going to have their partner there. And that's the one they're going to write the offer on because it is ready to go. They don't have to think about all the things they need to do. And when you have choices, they're going to move on.
And I also think it's a great program because, like you said, you get to make the choices as the seller. You get to choose the contractors you pick, the repair people, the painters, the stagers. It's not like having a company borrowing money from a company and then having their crew come in and being dependent on their
Correct.
crew's timelines. I think that's a huge advantage for sellers.
They can even do the work themselves. And like I said, they've got a debit card that they can use to go to Home Depot and buy paint. If they want to paint the bedrooms, they can do that as well. But yes, you can use any contractor.
Chris, do you see renovation and pre-sale funding becoming more common in real estate as the buyers become more selective?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw an article that said that 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And then there was another one that came out from an article from Redfin that said that 71% of transactions that failed before closing were due to inspection issues or repair concerns.
Mhm.
So those are the reason things are failing. Those are studies that are done, and that's again a result of just a home that's not turnkey. They have choices. They're going to move on. So yeah, I do see a lot of it. I think it's just because things are a lot more expensive these days.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, at the end of the month, there's not a lot of money left over. But we all have one thing: we have equity. If we've been in our home for a little bit of time, especially in California, right, equity is always grows pretty nicely. House rich, cash poor, and there's an opportunity to utilize that. It's just an option to defer the cost of those repairs using the equity in their home and then having nothing due until closing. And no risk, no credit risk.
Absolutely. I love it. One thing I talk to sellers about is doing pre-sale inspections. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. And what I tell sellers is that, and I know this was standard in the industry in the Bay Area, and it's really coming more into the Sacramento market over the last few years. It's very common now where sellers are doing pre-sale inspections. They're doing a roof inspection or they're doing a structural pest inspection. I've told my sellers, and I do routinely, that you should do at a minimum a structural pest inspection before your home goes on the market, possibly a roof inspection. And that way, when you go on the market, you have those reports ready and you know what the problems are with your house. So you have priced it accordingly, right? There aren't going to be, hopefully, not major surprises that come up once those reports are done. In fact, I recently had a seller where I told her the same thing. I said, we need to do a structural pest inspection. We did the structural pest inspection and it came back with drywood termites. And so we ended up having to tent the house. But you know what the great thing was? We did it before we went on the market. So when we went on the market, we had a clear pest report. Everything had been done prior, and we could give that to a potential buyer. Yeah. How do you feel about the pre sale inspections?
I think they're brilliant. I live in Seattle and it's a very popular thing. It has been for a long time. But by doing that, by getting the inspection ahead of time and maybe even taking care of those issues, what you're telling a buyer as a seller is that you care about your home. And that means a lot to a buyer because if there's a lot of deferred maintenance, they're just going to wonder what happens in 2 or 3 years, what's going to pop up later. And again, going back to the cost standpoint, if a seller's taking care of those items that come up, not only does it portray the fact that they care about their home, but also that they've got something that's now turnkey and they control that cost of what they replace it with. And it means a lot, I think, to a buyer to know that a seller has gone out of the way to actually find out beforehand as opposed to it being a
Mm.
surprise.
So, for some of those listeners out there that may be hesitant about applying for this program, can you talk a little bit about whether these types of funds are going to affect their credit score and what are some things they should know before they actually apply?
Yeah, it's a soft credit pool. So it would be no different than if you were on, let's say, your checking account website or your credit card website. It always ask you, hey, do you want to see your credit score? That's a soft credit pool. It's not a hard credit pool, which is what, if you're going out for a HELOC or a second mortgage, that's going to be a hard credit pool. And that will affect your credit score, could make it go lower. And if you're a seller who is going to then be buying, you don't want that to affect it. So we do a soft credit pool. We don't report it to the credit bureau until after the loan's paid off, and then we're reporting a zero balance. So there's a benefit to that.
I just don't know why more sellers don't use this program. I think it's absolutely
Well,
essential. And a lot of it's because they don't know about it. I think that's a lot of.
they don't. Yeah, they don't know, and I think they hear the word loan or finance, and they're like, they've had bad experience. All the work and preparation, literally from application, which I said was 10 questions, from application to requesting funds to be transferred into their checking account. I've had one literally a month ago that took 60 seconds.
Wow.
So it's super streamlined, very efficient, very fast and easy, and very inexpensive. So we try to take the stress part out of that by making it just a lot more convenient.
Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up at Notable after decades in the real estate industry.
Let's see, back in 97, I started off as an agent in the Seattle market. Did that for about 11 years, did some time with management. And then this was in '08 that I ended up getting out of sales in terms of just selling real estate. And then I just loved the industry so much that I went in and started working for a real estate technology company, working within the industry. And then I worked for a home warranty company for about 7 years. And then I started working for Notable, came into my lap here at the beginning of 2025. And so I got started with them in May. But no, I love this. I always tell my boss I get goosebumps when I think about our product because I think it is such a great thing for sellers because that's the biggest concern is it's so stressful to think about all the things they have to do, but they don't have the funds to do it. And this just allows them to utilize the equity in their home that they've already earned and have to take care of it so they can get the top dollar because every seller wants to sell their home for top dollar. They'd love to see an escalation clause or multiple offers or even getting full price. And that is slowly not happening as often, especially with homes that aren't market ready. So it just gives them the best opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why it's critical to have a really good team when you're selling your house or you're buying a house. you need a professional team that you can trust. And Chris, you're definitely part of my team. I can't wait to help my sellers get their homes ready for sale with the Windermere Ready program. And you've just been great in terms of making it easy for both the agent and the client to get their homes highest and best value when they list. So thank you for your time on the show, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have a great
All
day.
right, Miriam. Thank you.
See you soon.
Okay.
Until next time, thank you for listening to the Thoughtful Realtor in Sacramento, where thoughtful guidance and local expertise support your most important real estate decisions. If you found this episode valuable, please like, subscribe on your favorite platform, whether Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, and share it with a friend. I appreciate you being here. Clarity, strategy, thoughtful execution.